there anybody on the call for public participation? Okay, there's not, and nobody is here. Moving on. First item is invoice for Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for the Lincoln Union Street Pump Station construction professional services from May 30, 2020 to July 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $1,457.50. Mr. Bateman.
I'd like to put this on the voting agenda, and if you don't mind, Tracy, while I got the mic, I'll explain. These are going to come consistently now because we have asked, and it seems like that's what people would like, that we keep them apprised of how this project's moving. So instead of lumping a bunch of them together like Fifth Street and coming forward a year later, we're bringing these forward as they come in. It's in your packet. You can read it on the details, but it's just another invoice for the ongoing sewer upgrade.
So place this on the regular agenda? Okay, we'll place that on the regular agenda. Item number 5, invoice for Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for the CSO Improvement Construction Phase, Construction Professional Services from May 30th, 2020 to July 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $13,113.40. And this particular invoice is for the CSO Improvement Construction Phase. And keep me honest here, Mr. Bateman, but I believe that's at the wastewater treatment facility.
Yes. Place it on the agenda, please.
Ms. Bateman.
If you notice, you guys requested to have more detail on the bills. On the very last pages of the invoice, it kind of gives you a breakdown of the progress for that bill. If anybody knows, it's on the back page, but it's there.
Yep. Thank you. Place this on the regular agenda? Okay, we'll place that on the regular agenda. Item number 6, invoice from Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley for design of a 70 MGD CSO treatment facility, new lab building, new secondary clarifier mechanisms, new screen building, grit classifier, and sludge conveyor professional services from May 30th, 2020 to July 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $61,148.25. Mr. Bateman.
So again, this is for the CSO project out at the plant. This is the basically buildings where all the testing gets done. So it's just all part of the upgrade. They have to do these testing, and this is the equipment needed to do it and the building that it would need to be put into.
Regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 7, ordinance amending the City of Lincoln's previously passed ordinance regarding poultry. Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Mayor. This is simply a change in one word. Of course, we passed last week the ordinance for allowing chickens, but there was an oversight, a mistake, at least that was a mistake in the way it was intended, and I hope you would agree. So this is under B, permits. The permit fee is set at $25 per property per year, not per chicken per year, as it is now. So we're requesting the change be that one word of $25 per property, which in other words would be a flat fee of a $25 permit for each person who wants to get the permit for chickens, regardless of how many chickens they have. So that's the only change in that ordinance that I'm requesting. So with your permission, we'll put that on the regular agenda.
Mr. Parrott?
I'm a little confused. I didn't think it was a typo or anything like that, because we had discussed, if we were going to charge another $25 for a chicken that was lost or that had died. I think people are coming to realization that it's going to be very expensive if they want to get into the chicken the egg business. It's going to be, if you get 4 chickens, that's $100 feed. How many many dozen eggs can you buy, you know, for farm fresh eggs or whatever, without having to go through the business or through the trouble of, and so I think there's probably people complaining and bringing it to you, Ron?
Mr. Keller?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, in response to that, yes, I've heard several people reach out to me say, I want to have 8 chickens. That's $200, and you're right. It's going to be a very expensive project for people to undertake, which is exactly why I don't think we need to make it even more cumbersome for them for levying a $25 per chicken additional fee. Again, I've talked with Westwood Wall about this, and he is certainly in agreement about this permitting fee of $25 as a flat fee.
Mr. Bateman?
I'm trying to find it in the ordinance here, but I'm kind of confused now. I thought we put a limit on the number of chickens you can have.
We do. That is under number 1A, 6-2-33A, number 1, talks about the chicken limit.
I thought wasn't it 6 chickens?
Yes, and in any case, no more than 10 will be allowed in any single lot.
Okay,
Well, there's
that's my confusion then, because you said 8, and I'm like, I thought the
I was
limit
just throwing
was
that
6.
as an example.
Per
Okay.
the language in here, it says 6 chickens are allowed on lots less than or equal to 1 acre. An additional 1 chicken permitted to be added for every 1/2 acre in excess, up to 10 chickens.
Depending on the size of the yard, right?
So what would you like to do with this one? Place it on the agenda?
Yes.
We'll place it on the agenda. Item number 8, ordinance amending 6-2-3 of the Lincoln City Code, ordinance number 2020-923, whereby the provisions of animal control were amended. Mr. Bateman or Mr. Hoblet, would you like to speak to this one?
I'd defer it to Mr. Hoblet because I believe it pertains to the barking dog portion.
That would be accurate. I was perusing the ordinances that have been uploaded to Sterling via Sterling that have yet to be implemented into the code, and noticed that one of them indicated that provision that we amended, that we included a defense of barking dog. We moved it from one provision and inserted it into the dog at large provision, essentially made it dog at large and barking dog. We added a paragraph B. We split it up into, instead of just one paragraph, we made it to 3 paragraphs, and A, B, and C. We added B, which added the violation of barking dog. But we never amended C, which had the penalties. Or we amended the penalties, but we never amended to include violations of dog at large and barking dog. So what I essentially did is I changed the provision to instead a violation of the above subsections, so which will cover both A and B. And in the future, we opt to add anything else in there. It also, that language being broad, would encompass all of that as well. So that's essentially what I've promulgated for the City Council.
Thank you. Place this on the regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Item 9, ordinance amending fire regulations penalties. Chief Donofsky, would you like to speak to this one, please? There he is. Oh, it's hard to get out of there.
We've gone over the fine structures that were in the ordinance. They were outdated. I think the last time the actual fire ordinance was touched was probably in the 90s. And some of the stuff that was in the ordinance was actually from the 60s, like 66 or 64. So we updated the fine structures to reflect $100 for any type of fee. First offenses are $100, second offenses are $200, and third offenses are $500, and any subsequent offense after that within the calendar year would also be $500. We took sections 532, 533, 534, renumbered some of them so that it's easier to read through the ordinance. Those have to do with fire on pavements, boiling of tar, leaving shavings near a building, and stacking of hay or straw. When you get to 536, burning in the city, you're talking about recreational fires and landscape waste fires. We cleaned up some of the language so that people would understand the difference between the two and what times of day they could do that. Recreational fires can be done from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight. The landscape waste fires go according to time of year, but they can start at 8 in the morning, and then in the fall or the winter, they have to be out by 4 and 6 o'clock for the rest of the year, but those dates are in there. So we also cleaned up the language so that recreational fires and the landscape waste fires have the same types of rules, which are if you're out there burning in your yard or you're having a recreational fire, you have to tend the fire at all times, that there's flame, any type of smoldering or smoke with it. If you leave the fire unattended, then it's considered an illegal fire. So, and you also have to have an adequate water source present. So if you're burning in your fire pit for a recreational fire, which is not to exceed 36 inches, a 5-gallon bucket of water, a garden hose, that's sufficient. If you're burning off your landscape waste and you're 50 feet from all structures, you have to have some type of water source farther out in your yard to handle that at that time. So whether it's a fully charged garden hose or multiple 5-gallon buckets of water, something to control it if it gets out of hand. So does anybody else have any questions? Those are basically what we updated and revamped in the ordinance.
Mr. Keller?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, how many calls do you get every year approximately for out-of-control fires, be it recreational or the out-of-control landscape fires?
I'd have to go back and look at that, but it doesn't seem like we have terribly that many. Most of the people that do call in and have the recreational things are compliant with the rules. They keep them small and whatnot, but we have had a handful this year alone of out-of-control yard waste fires or cooking fires, grill fires.
So, as you said, this is more just to update the code and not necessarily a punitive action as a result of too many calls.
Correct.
Okay.
I think the old fines were $10, $25, and I can see where somebody might take advantage of that. They might not care what they're burning in their fire pit or whatnot. In a recreational fire, they can only burn approved wood, whether it's something you chop down from a tree or whatnot. You can't burn any construction lumber. It's treated with chemicals. Same thing with the landscape waste. You can only burn what you cut down, leaves, branches, vegetation from your yard. You can't burn any of that other stuff. So, but the fines reflect what it might cost for us to have to get out and, fuel for the trucks, cleaning up of any type of equipment that we have, the manpower it takes to come out and do that, whereas if people just follow the rules, we won't even have to deal with that.
So I'll place this on the regular agenda? Okay, thank you, Chief. Item 10, ordinance authorizing the purchase of real estate for 201 9th Street, which was tabled on 7/6/2020. Mr. Hoblet, do you have an update on this one? Or are we still where we were at last week and we're inquiring regarding the,
We're just going to have to plow through with a real estate sale if you want to purchase it. I can't speak as to DCFS in regards to their liens. I know that their lien that you can't, if you owe back support, you can't discharge that in a bankruptcy. I know that again, also that when the properties are vested over via tax deed, a lot of liens do get wiped, including a lot of our liens. So it's one of those situations where you go through with the real estate sale, find out that whether or not you can acquire good title through the title company via this sale. And if you can't, well, then you have to negotiate in regards to the lien, see if they'll give up the lien. If they do not, then I don't even know how much the lien is for. I went in and I pulled up the lien that they had and filed on the property. It's just a general lien. So I don't even know if it's still, it's still a good lien, but I don't know as to how much is owed on it. I do not know even if the beneficiary is yet remaining living, who was supposed to receive those funds. And then, once we get within the real estate transaction, if the lien it cannot be discharged and we can't get rid of it, and it's too much, that's too unpalatable for the city, then we can simply back out of the transaction. Okay, that's essentially how this is probably going to have to end up going. So,
Mr. Bateman?
Well, with the last few sentences Mr. Hoblet said there, I personally feel we should just move forward. If we get in there and all of a sudden they won't release the lien, or it is an exorbitant amount of money, we just walk. No different than than a private individual buying it. Personally, I feel one government entity to another government entity that they would probably wipe the lien if we can even get a hold of anybody to find out what the lien is. Like Mr. Hoblet said, it may be sold and there's nothing left there, or can't get a hold of the people that did it. But I think we should move forward, because if we do end up with a clean bill for this property, then we can turn around and sell it and put that property back on the tax roll.
I agree. So we'll place this, well, it's still on the agenda, so, okay, it'll already be on the agenda for next week then. Okay, thanks. Item number 11, Heitman Drive Preliminary Construction and Engineering Service Agreement. Mr. Landers?
Yes, as requested by the county, staff get a proposal for the engineering on Heitman Drive. So, what memo you're looking at, and then the engineering agreement provides the information that you need. Fortunately, we've received our second installment of the Rebuild Illinois Fund. So we're sitting with a balance of $318,623.56 right now. We move forward with this engineering agreement. This is for the construction, design, construction, and oversight of the project. So this is the complete engineering for the whole project. And part of these funds would be due within this fiscal year, and then there would be other parts of the funds that would be due within the next previous fiscal, or the next fiscal year. So it's not that this will have to all be paid in 2021, but then also the observation and things like that would be paid in 21-22 fiscal year. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Superintendent, I'm glad you clarified that, because in the appropriation, we had figured this at about $50,000, but if some of this is going to be paid in the next fiscal year, then we'll be prepared to deal with that, because we've received more than that with this Rebuild Illinois funds, but we'd only appropriated $50,000. But if we're going to only be paying part...
The money that would be due within this fiscal year was under $40,000,
Okay.
just under $40,000.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Regular agenda for this one?
Yes.
Okay, place it on the regular agenda. Thanks, Walt. Item number 12, approval of animal control contract between the City of Lincoln and Logan County. This particular one, it is a result of the situation that we got into where we had to amend the ordinance for dogs at large, and the information that Mr. Hoblet shared before. The county had already sent over their animal control contract to this council, which we had approved. And so they brought that back to us after that with this particular language. And in this, if you look through the document, we'll get a clean copy of this, but if you look at the document, it references 48,000 instead of 42,000, so that's a $6,000 increase. Language renewable each year with an annual increase of the CPI, and the monthly payment went from 3,500 to 4,000. And I'll let Mr. Bateman elaborate if he would like, but in short, this increase in the dollar amount is due to the fact that now the animal control warden out there is now able to write citations when she goes to a site and it warrants that. And so now they're actually taking on that activity on behalf of the city. And so they felt that if they're going to take on that additional work that they normally didn't, that it warranted the additional funds to cover that. Mr. Bateman, anything else to add to that one?
Yes, that's right on the money there. In my 10 years as animal control chairman for the county, there was a lot of times we would get complaints, and the animal control warden at the time would go out, and then their hands were basically tied because this was a city ordinance and we had to get the city involved, police involved, and such like that. So now we have given the animal control warden more authority to issue citations and fines within the city limits, giving her the authority to enforce the city's own animal ordinances, where before we had to get someone from the city involved to do that. And sometimes that was time consuming because we've got cat hoarding problems, multiple dog problems, dogs running at large and such like that. So the first phone call is to animal control, and basically we're just giving the warden the authority to enforce the city animal control code or animal code instead of waiting for authorities to show up and stuff. So that was just an added burden onto the animal control warden and her staff, and I agree. I felt it was warranted for an increase in the contract because it is now more workload, because the city of Lincoln is by far the largest workload for animal control.
Yeah, and one of the things that I did want to elaborate on is we had a discussion. There were several of us on those calls, members of the county, state's attorney. It became a very heated topic at times, and we did discuss the fees, and that's how we ended up here. But I want to make it clear that when they write these citations, that money will still come to the city and not go to the county. And that's why we felt that the increase was appropriate, given that we're still receiving those fines and fees. Mr. Keller, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I'm assuming other incorporated towns in the county, like Mount Pulaski or Atlanta or Elkhart, also have an animal control contract that they pay as a city, correct?
Mr. Bateman?
So as the county, they reach out to each city and offer them the same kind of contract. It is up to that city to enter into a contract with the Logan County Animal Control or not. If they do not enter into a contract with animal control, the way it works is if they get the call, the animal control warden then has to call the mayor of that city to get authorization to go into that city and deal with the animal control problem, and that is a minimum $200 fee to do that. So to answer your question, yes, we enter into contracts with certain cities or those cities, or if they do not, they still pay a fee for animal control, because according to state rules and regulations, Logan County Animal Control only has to deal with unincorporated areas of the county. And then, like most other, like Sangamon County Animal Control and such, they enter into agreements with each city to take over animal control for those cities. But each town pays their way either through a contract or on call basis.
Mr. Parrott?
Does the warden have the ability to issue fines to the unincorporated areas of Logan County?
To the unincorporated areas, yes, it would be to that individual. In the cities, it would depend on that contract.
I was just kind of curious. I wonder how many or how often the fines are issued to the unincorporated areas. Because my hope would be that, one, we don't have any animal control problems, but two, if we did, since we are going to be voting on this, that we can make their money back from the additional costs going forward.
Well, as Tracy alluded, the additional money that the city of Lincoln is paying, I believe, in my years' experience and in the phone call that Tracy was on, he heard the numbers also. Just in the number of fines, that extra $6,000 should be recouped easily each year, because now the animal control warden can actually write the fine or write the citation on site. That person would then go through the court process, and any fines or fees collected come back to the city of Lincoln. The county would only get their normal portion through the court process. It doesn't go to animal control.
Mr. Parrott?
And so then is the expectation then for the warden, if there is an issue, that there would not be any warning tickets made, and that they go right to a fine?
I can't speak for Jane out there, but it's her discretion's exactly like it is with our officers when they go out there. At this time, they will go on site and make a determination whether they write a ticket or they just give them a warning. We've seen that in this particular situation multiple times. So, and this action isn't to mainly address this particular situation that came up. It's a situation that has come up quite often, and the police officers have a lot of things under their purview to take care of, and so Jane and her staff can go out on site and make that determination before they engage the police officer during the day. So the agreement we have is that if someone calls 911, animal control will go out during the day. If it happens at night, the police will then get involved for a number of reasons. Animal control is not open then. They can be called. But if you have an animal barking at 1 or 2 in the morning, a dog, there may be other reasons other than you just let it out and it's barking at a rabbit. There could be somebody out there doing something criminal, and animal control staff would like for the police to look into those prior to them being called on site.
And I want to add, we played out several scenarios in that phone call, and as Tracy said, it was Mr. Welch, myself, Jane Whiteman, the sheriff, the state's attorney, John Hoblet. So we played out other scenarios, and all law enforcement agreed that after hours, they would rather a police department be dispatched along with animal control to make sure it's not a criminal activity versus just, Fido running down the street, or as Tracy said, most of it's barking dogs, and both law enforcement agencies agreed that, you should find out why the dog's barking, and it's probably best that a police officer is present. If the police officer gets there and finds out that it's just some dog chained to a tree and he's barking to one end, then Jane's there and can issue the fine or whatever. But that's the way this was. It was about a 2-hour phone call, and that's what this contract is, what the result is.
Any other questions on this one? Regular agenda? Okay, we'll place it on the regular agenda. Next up is announcements. Ms. Cavalman, did you want to speak to the Fifth Street Road project? Yeah, an update on that one, please.
Yes, I sure will. Everyone, I did send you in email, sent you the Gantt chart that I prepare occasionally, and it's showing more progress. Anything that's in white color is showing progress. We've got several that are really, really close. We're waiting on IDOT for approval. Then we can get the deed and get the check written to the individuals. So we're really moving along. The COVID-19 stopped some of this, it slowed it down drastically. I don't know what you want to know about. I went through the information that we have on file, the accounts payable and all that information. Can you hear me, or am I muffled?
Yeah, just, you were drifting away from the mic.
Sorry. So, at the present time, we're getting ready to send our documents off to IDOT with all the attachments that go with it. I've gone through there. I found a couple discrepancies. I don't know how much I wanted to ask the council if they wanted to address it or just let it go. They were from previous fiscal years. One was a $7,053.18 check. One was a $17,305.40 check, and they were just switched. And Fifth Street Road project was used, and then another incident, sewer money was used. So these are several, maybe 3 and 4 or 5 years old. We've already passed the budget and moved on. I don't know if you want to just move from this or keep it on file and keep a record of it, or I don't. So I'll have to ask you about that. We'll have to talk about that. Are there any other questions anyone has to ask, or has any?
Mr. Bateman?
Adam?
So several months ago, and I'm just going to say, everybody knows I'm not a fan of Fifth Street Road, and nothing's going to change that. So, and that is the topic I get more phone calls and inquiries about than anything, whether I'm out shopping or whatever. So several months ago, it was asked, what is the total amount that we have spent on Fifth Street to date? So my question is, do we have that number?
I have, yes. To date, well, going back how many years? 23, 24 years as accurately as we can. And from what I've got obtained from the engineers who've been involved, the design engineers, I don't know so much about prior with the Farnsworth and those kind of individuals exactly what all they did, but what I've got from the present individuals who've been working on this are that we have an amount invoiced to date from CMT for $304,676.58, and their contract amount, they still have $38,917.42 remaining in their contract. We received from Hanson $607,224.94 for their design services. Now you have to remember, we also went and worked and changed. The city council changed and removed the bike path from the design, so she had to do some more work. We also had some information from Union Pacific Railroad. They've done some extra work, and I think those, I've gone back and checked that out, and I'm waiting for one more response back, but out of that bill we received for $678.38 from Union Pacific Railroad, Peggy and I discovered, we thought today that's how it was, but there was a pass-through from the gentleman who used to work for Union Pacific Railroad, and he's a consultant now, Sean Collier, and he emailed me this morning, and he's wanting to know, or this afternoon he did, and he's wanting to know about the easement situation. Well, we haven't finished the easement situation with that parcel number 8, which involves 4 different parties plus the Fifth Street Road plus the Union Pacific, where that crossroad goes with the Havana Spur, goes across Fifth Street Road at that intersection. So we don't have an answer for him for that, but they billed, when we were discussing this as a council, it did not get totally discussed because we pretty much kind of dropped this, that the forced main, well, not the forced main, but the material and force account estimate of $219,145 that Union Pacific Railroad needed from us to go ahead and get the nod from the city that we would go ahead and they would start doing the design, what they had to do for their end of it to start their engineering work. So we did not approve it. That was back in March, and it was taken off the table. Then we understood back in, and this is all kind of coming into play. In April then, this is when this gentleman went back and reassessed. I guess he thought we were closing out the account and not going to go forward with the work on the Fifth Street Road project with its intersection with Union Pacific Railroad. So he went back and did a double check, I guess, to close it out. In the meantime, the other group from the Union Pacific Railroad came in there. They call them a gang group, came in and did a track inspection and a patrol and survey. So they billed us money as well, and between the two of those came out to be $678.38, and that all fell within the time period of March, when we thought we were going to just close this out and not finish it, to the time when we decided on July 6th to approve it, and we gave him the message that we did approve it at a council meeting, that we were going to approve the material and force account estimate to start back on work. I'm losing my voice. I gotta get carbon monoxide. Just a moment. Just a second. I'm getting carbon monoxide from my mask. Anyway, they went back and worked on this. We opened this up and we said we were going to approve it, but we did stipulate on July 6th, the city council did. I don't think we took a vote on it, but we did basically say that we were not going to do any more work on Fifth Street Road or pay any more payments for anything other than land acquisition until that was completed. So that's where the council stood on that on July 6th of this year.
Mr. Bateman.
So, this morning, I took it upon myself to reach out to CMT Hanson. I also reached out to the city clerk for land acquisition. The CMT to date, and I put to date from the beginning. My email is from the beginning of the project to date. So as of today, CMT has invoiced us $305,913.96. That is all for land acquisition. That's what CMT was hired to do, is land acquisition.
May I ask who gave, I'm interrupting, just may I ask who gave you that information? Because
CMT did.
well, I mean, which individual? Because that's not what I got from Stan Hansen, and he's the overseer of all that.
I got it from someone over Stan Hansen's head.
Okay.
The Hansen money came in at $607,224.94, as the city administrator mentioned, and that's because I emailed Hansen, asked that question. It was just me and Julie Shipp, and when she responded back, she carbon copied Beth on it, so that's where that number came from. Then I reached out to the city clerk, and it was just a simple question of, could I get the dollar amount for land acquisitions? This is the money that we have paid for land to date for Fifth Street Road. That number is $375,787.44. And the city clerk at the bottom put in a footnote that there is one parcel pending, so that number will go up once it's finalized. So the scary part is we have spent just in land acquisitions for the road to nowhere $681,701.40. That's for CMT to help us require the land acquisitions and the money we paid for those lands. That brings the grand total to Fifth Street Road without one rock being placed, one shovel of dirt being moved, or any changes to that roadway other than its deteriorating state, to $1,288,926.30. And that does not include the Union Pacific money, because at that point I was pretty upset and I didn't reach out to Union Pacific. And quite honestly, I didn't have a direct email to Union Pacific. So my point is this: how much more money are we going to spend? And the $1 million question is, how much money have we been reimbursed? To my knowledge, none. It hasn't even been filed yet.
I haven't filed the information yet.
We just keep spending and approving and spending and approving and spending and approving, while the citizens out there have to drive on a road that's getting worse and worse and worse and worse every day. Some of them have even reached out to me and said, for the love of God, just make it flat and black. The floods that they deal with are a rarity. They're almost willing to just put up with the drainage problem because it's destroying automobiles on that roadway. Now, we haven't even acquired all the land yet, let alone even started building the thing, and we're at $1.3 million in reality. So it took me just a couple hours to come up with that number, and it just boggled my mind of the amount of money we have spent. And I asked each one of those three individuals from to date, from as far back as they could find to date. And that's what they came up with. So I hope when we start bringing these invoices again, or if the city wants to start spending money, they remember the money we already spent. Because I'm just going to say this. Everybody beats our heads in about a TIF loan for $2.3 million. But guess what we got for $2.3 million? We have some buildings that we might be able to recoup some money, and we have a theater we could go to, even though it's closed right now, but we have something we can look at. We have nothing for $1.3 million, absolutely nothing. We have land that we don't need, that we have to maintain, that we have to take care of. It's just getting ridiculous. I'm sorry if I'm rambling on, but it's just a passion of mine of just, this is the epitome of government waste.
Cavalman.
Well, I do agree with you. This has been a very big undertaking, a very large, expensive one. But we have done this over 23 years. There's been all kinds of different administrations, as you know how it goes. We've also been working back and forth with the county board on this, and the other roadway area, the township right out there. But this is our money. Yes, we have spent, but we've made decisions. We've made some wrong decisions. We've turned back. We've put it on hold. Now it's accumulated. We could have paid this back in 2017. This force account. We ended up paying $75,000, I think, more. I might have said more. I can't remember. But just from 2017, this council not approving it, it's gone up that much with the Union Pacific Railroad. But as I pointed out on this Gantt chart, if you look at it, you might not have it in front of you right now, but there are yellows marked here. But I've been updated today. We've been talking about this. A couple of these are sitting in IDOT, and I mentioned that earlier. They're sitting in IDOT waiting for approval, and as COVID goes on, it's delaying. People are not in their office like they were. So a couple of them are coming back. One of them is any day. Well, several of them are any day. We got some that are signed. We've got one individual I need to talk with the council about that has come back with a counteroffer, but until we can have an executive session, we won't talk about it. But this had been different colors. It's now moving white, and we're almost to the end. And yes, we will be, either by the end of this week or next week, early next week, we'll be getting these off to IDOT for reimbursement. And yes, we've paid $375,787.44, which, like I said, there's two discrepancies. One is to be added back in, one is to be deleted, or to be given to another fund that was accidentally posted. So do we go on with this? Do we ask IDOT for this information, this money, and we move on with those other two discrepancies and leave them there? Or what do you want to do? Otherwise, I'm going to use my discretion and go forward with this, send these off to IDOT and get it taken care of. And IDOT has been closed, working at a very minimal staff, and I was not allowed to go down there. I was told by our gentleman that lives here that he will take those down there for us, since he is an engineer and has access to the building. So,
Yeah, so I will say that I spoke with Ms. Cavalman this morning about this particular project and the outstanding reimbursements, and the directive I gave her was, don't wait for everything, get everything packaged up that we know is already settled, get the documentation done, and get it down to IDOT so we can get reimbursed. So that is in the process. That was
Yes.
just this morning, so obviously nothing's reached IDOT yet.
Oh, no, he works from home, so he's back and forth, so it will be. I'm gonna give one more double check, and then we'll get it ready to go.
Mr. Bateman?
I just want to make it clear, I'm not blaming anybody. Okay, I'm not blaming Beth. I'm not blaming anybody. This has been a fiasco from the very beginning. I'm blaming everybody. This is money that we're spending and we just keep voting on it, and those people, their cars are falling apart, tires are blown. There's been accidents because, believe it or not, I'm a car guy. You hit it just right, you bounce to the other lane. You bounce into oncoming traffic. We're just waiting for the next, there's going to be somebody die out there. And as far as the Gantt chart, you know what I think about the Gantt chart? Every time you talk about the colors are changing, that's because we haven't come forward and asked for more money. Because every time one of them colors change, we ask for more money to pay for that property. We ask for more money, more money, more money. I'm going to continue to vote no, and I think it just needs to be one of those streets that we just need to put it on the look at to get it resurfaced and just cut our losses, because it's just ridiculous. I see this being easily $6 million by the time we get there. Easily.
Okay. Anything else? All right, the only other announcement that I have. Peggy, you have one?
I'd like the council to approve executive minutes. If you can have have our city attorney do his normal resolution for the executive minutes. I've emailed him the dates that needs to be on there. If you put that on the agenda, the voting agenda for next week.
Yep, we'll place that on the regular agenda. Anything else, Ms. Bateman?
No, that's it.
Okay. Walt, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a couple updates. With the storm moving through yesterday, crews were out today working on cleanup. We've been through portions of the town, not all of it. So if residents would place just their storm debris, if they have any, place it at the curb. As a reminder, we do not pick up any storm debris in the alleyways, so it needs to be out to the front, out to the street, edge of the street, or on the curb, depending on what the situation is. We do have a tentative date planned for the city cleanup. Again, it'll be a drop-off at the Lincoln Municipal Service Building, 313 Lemon Street. The tentative date for that right now is September 26th. Look for more details for that to come out. The oil and chip project should get underway starting next week, we hope. So look for more information about that. The sidewalk project is moving along very well, and they have probably another week and a half maybe until they get finished up. And we have a pre-construction meeting for the mill and overlay project this Thursday. So look for the resurfacing projects to get started. I just ask for people to be patient. We're going to be in some school areas, and we're going to do the best we can to work with everybody. Just asking for the citizens' patience as we move through these projects and try to get them finished up. And that's all I have.
Cavalman?
Yes, just tonight we received, we knew about the CURES grant that we were going to receive for coronavirus relief with the city, and we're trying to put our documentation together to request expenses. Chuck, the city treasurer, received this data tonight. We have a W-9 we need, he signed, and we do need to have you sign the documentation that we can get this sent off. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other announcements? Okay, actually I have a couple. I don't want to go open up the topic again, But regarding Fifth Street, I just do want to say that this council gave the city administrator a September 1st deadline. So between now and then, be gathering your thoughts on this particular project, and be prepared to come back to the table with some direction on how you guys would like to move forward with this. And then I just wanted to briefly share the latest COVID-19 numbers per the Logan County Health Department website. The percentage for testing positive is 2.5. There were some more positive cases today that were updated on their site. That brings the total count to 166. 7 recovered, and unfortunately, we did have a fatality this past week. So just with that, a reminder to be safe and be conscious of the people around you. Be conscious of the businesses that you go into, and we'll continue to share these numbers. On that, I have no other announcements. Mr. Keller.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Keller made the motion. Mr. Parrott second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 7:52 p.m.